What's going on, everyone? You're back with your boy Jono for another quick math lesson. Today we're going to have a look at sector graphs and divided bar graphs. And both of these are visual displays that I'm sure you've seen before. They communicate a whole bunch of information really quickly and they're very intuitive. But we need to be able to make them effectively and analyze them in order to get marks in year 7 and 8. So if we had a look at these two graphs, we've got a sector graph that looks like a pie graph. That's sometimes another name for it. And we look at that divided bar graph. In both of those examples, you could see pretty quickly, blue's easily the biggest out of the other colors. So that means blue is the biggest proportionally compared to everything else. This incredibly quick reading of these data displays is why these are so helpful. They can allow us to see if something is big proportionally to other things that we've measured. And this is really the only context where a survey would be helpful. If I surveyed 10 people, you'd say, oh, out of everyone in the world, that's nothing. But 10 people out of maybe a group of 12 that like something, that would then be a big proportion that you might be able to use to predict the future or predict the feelings of other people. In order to create these, we can do the same thing for both of them, which is really helpful. We just need to know 3 bits of information. The first thing we need to know is the size of the graph, and that's really easy for us. A circle is always 360 degrees. We don't need the circumference or anything like that. We're just talking about the 360 degrees that makes it up. To find the size of the divided bar graph, all you need is a ruler. We just need the absolute length of it, and that's the only bit of information that we really need. So the second thing we need to know is how many people were actually surveyed, and this will help us with the last one as well. The two first things, the size of the graph and the amount of people, we can make a ratio that tells us what percentage of the graph represents one person. Once we've got this down, we're going to be cruising. So if we have a look at this example, we've got 4 groups and we want to represent them on a sector graph. We could probably already tell which one's the biggest just by looking at it, but we want to make sure we are accurately representing the data in this circle. So we've got 60 people in total. That's just adding them up. And we know that the circle's 360 degrees around. So using this, we can find out what one person represents. All we have to do is the size of the graph, 360, divided by the amount of people, so divided by 60, and that's equal to 6 degrees. What that means is that one person is 6 degrees, so we just have to multiply the frequencies by 6 degrees to work out how much of the pie they should represent. So all we have to do is 6 multiplied by 6 degrees, which is equal to 36 degrees, and that's all we have to do for this one. We just have to times each group now by 6 degrees again, and that's all we've got to do. Just bang them into your calculator. We've got 192 degrees, 84 degrees, and 48 degrees left over, and you could add these up and they would equal 360. So that's a really good hint to show that you've done this correctly. Now all you've got to do is label each group a certain color just to make sure it pops off the page. And then you just have to use your protractor to fill in the degrees around the circle. I'm not using a protractor here because it's really hard to get on my little whiteboard app. But for you, you have to spend the time to use your protractor. If you've got a teacher that's especially a harsh marker, they might check if your degrees are on. So just take your time to fill it out correctly, and it should fill up the entire circle perfectly, like mine did here. But I wasn't actually using a protractor, so I kind of cheated. So in this one, we're going to actually analyze a divided bar graph. So we're going the other way. In the last one, we made one from data, and this one we're trying to find out how many people we surveyed and which group did they choose. So for this, it's the exact same steps, but first we need to make sure we know the entire size of the divided bar graph. It's not going to be 360 every single time. So this is step number 1. This one on my page is 10 centimeters long, and you need to write that down immediately. Then what I want you to do is tell me how big each section is. So this first blue section is 4 centimeters, 3 centimeters, 2 centimeters, and 1 centimeter. And again, just make sure that equals up to the size of your graph. So this time we're going the other way. We've got to find out what does 1 centimeter represent. So this time we have to do the amount of people divided by the distance. So 30 divided by 10. And that tells us that 1 centimeter represents 3 people. And now we are doing the exact same step as before. This time we just have to multiply the distance, or the 4 centimeters for that blue, by the 3 people to tell us how many people voted blue in this poll. So 4 times 3 is equal to 12, 3 times 3 is equal to 9, 2 times 3 is equal to 6, and 1 times 3 is equal to 3. Again, the easy way to check if you've done this right is add up those numbers. 12 plus 9 plus 6 plus 3 is equal to 30, so we know we've done this right. So the only important thing that you need to know for this whole lesson is number 1, how big, and number 2, how many people. From there, you will have all the information you need to get these right. Fellas, just make sure you are number 1, using a ruler, and number 2, taking the time to set these out correctly. I know that might be unfairly targeted, but I have had issues with boys just rushing through these before, and I just want you to make sure that you get these right. The only thing standing in between you and full marks in this topic is just taking your time and then getting the marks right.